the sales organization could see that. Like, okay, we're all driving to leading indicators. We have a number of meetings that we have to do. We're held to this number. We have to drive, value to the organization. What the hell is the partner organization doing? What's their process? How are they activating it? And so it became pretty clear pretty early on, like, all right, there was a stigma, and it was probably deserved.
Today we welcome Gardner Johnson to the show in this special edition series dedicated to the channel. He shares his early career challenges and how he went on to establish one of the most robust data-driven channel playbooks in the industry. We explore why direct sellers are transitioning into the channel as the SaaS ecosystem evolves, and why sellers must understand how to leverage partners to amplify sales. This is his playbook.
This episode is brought to you by Pipeline Generation AI, an account-based intelligence platform that drives high-quality engagement with your top target accounts. Welcome to Hunters and Unicorns. I'm Simon Kutit, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ollie Kune.
Great to be back, and welcome back to the show, everyone.
And it's with great pleasure that we introduce Gardner Johnson. Gardner, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Pleasure to be here. Looking forward to talking to you guys.
Absolutely. Well, by way of an introduction, Gardner, you've recently taken a new position as the VP of Global Partnerships at an amazingly disruptive startup called Codium. It's you're entering much earlier on in an organization, building from the ground up. And I have to say, the reason we're so excited to welcome you on the show is because this series is dedicated to the whole kind of channel play and the channel ecosystem. And you're such a fundamental part of the best practices within this ecosystem. And we're genuinely really excited to be going through and understanding and learning from you about your journey and also some of the best practices and the success you've been implementing. So really great having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, I think just to echo that, obviously we've had the experience of working with lots of the CROs from the community, and everybody talks so highly of you, the playbook that you've been able to roll out. And so, yeah, it is an absolute great honor to have you on the show today, Gardner, and thanks for your participation.
So Gardner, obviously you've been part of the BMC, the App Dynamics, then you went on to Data Robot and then Grafana. So you've been very much entrenched within the kind of the core playbook companies, if you'd like. And those organizations are very well known for their direct sales motion. And going back to kind of BMC, sorry, not Blade Logic, you're obviously part of the BMC. Going back to an organization like BMC, really want to understand what your early experiences were with channel, because there is a stigma. There are a lot of challenges associated with channel. So I would like for you to just take us back to those early days. What was it like? And what were you up against in those early days?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I first moved into the partner organization at BMC, I'd started off as an account manager there, and moved into really going out to target and build a partner ecosystem. I had no idea what I was doing or really what I was getting into. And when I first stepped in, I realized, holy shit, man, I'm surrounded by or at least the perception is this is the land of misfit toys. These are people that maybe haven't been able to sell or are done selling. They're at the tail end of their career. Really no process. There's no real logic around how they're building partners or what value they're even bringing back to the organization or to the account managers there. And it was really, you felt pretty low, like you didn't necessarily have a seat at the table. Maybe you get missed on some of the QBR invites. You get, missed in some of the gatherings that are taking place. And, the perception was that it's just, there's not a whole lot of value that's created there. And, once I started digging into it, I really didn't know how to build a partner ecosystem. I didn't really know how to really activate those partners. And you started to see pretty quickly that, there wasn't really any enablement, right? There wasn't enablement. How do you teach somebody to go build a partner, right? You go in and every kind of sales enablement program teaches you how to sell to an end customer. They don't necessarily teach you how to sell to a partner. There was no real leading indicators. There wasn't really any, like, what is your process? What is the sales process for the partner organization? And you could see why that perception was there. Everyone was kind of doing their own thing, and the sales organization could see that, like, okay, we're all driving to leading indicators. We have number of meetings that we have to do. We're held to this number. We have to drive, value to the organization. What the hell is the partner organization doing? What's their process? How are they activating it? And so it became pretty clear pretty early on, like, all right, there was a stigma, and it was probably deserved. And I saw, and it probably emerged over a few years of, like, okay, there's an opportunity here to do something and to really change the game.
So obviously, again, BMC, you joined before the Blade Logic acquisition, right? But then, or was it during the same time?
So I came in right after the acquisition, and before everything had, Blade Logic had really taken over the sales go-to-market motion.
It was almost 3 years into your selling career at BMC that you made the transition to channel. Take us to that point of your career, and what was it that drew you to the channel, or who was it that pushed you into the channel?
They got rid of everybody. They wanted to keep me, and they said, "What do you want to do?" Let me try out this partner stuff. And so I started my career supporting the New York region on the partner side. Living in New Hampshire, I was supporting Dan Fougere and Michael Lendener and JP Bolin and Spencer Tuttle. Started to learn so much, but that was really a game changer for me, being surrounded with some of the best, in the business, and how they pursue and what they were looking for, from a partner ecosystem. That was my introduction into the partner business.
At what point did it start to change? Was there a moment where it kind of really started to come together, or was it a slow burner? Help us understand what happened.
I really started initially focusing on the pains of an account manager. It's like Spencer Tuttle and I were tied at the hip, right? And I was like, okay, how can I help? How can I help this guy? Started to learn a lot from him, and I knew that he was going to be a phenomenal seller. So I just focused on solving those pains, and it was little wins that started to add up.
Why is it that you were able to solve things that someone like Spencer wasn't able to solve by himself? What was it about the channel that facilitated that opportunity?
If you look at any of these partner ecosystems, right? Like, or if you just look at it from a perspective, we are very single-threaded from what we're trying to sell. We're trying to sell, automation software, or we're trying to sell our technology, our platform, ITS, and whatever it is. And so you're going in and you're trying to solve very specific problems that tie directly to your platform. But these organizations have much larger problems. And the partner ecosystem, depending on the partner types, are working with them, solving all kinds of ancillary problems that potentially tie back in to the problem that the vendor is trying to solve. And so I think, what I started to see, and it's not that Spencer couldn't have solved the problem himself, is that the partners had a much larger reach within these organizations. Selling them hundreds of millions of dollars of business in a single account every year, where we're trying to go get $1 million, $5 million, $10 million out of that account. And so I think what, the problem that it helped to solve is that they were just a lot wider, a lot deeper in these organizations, and dealing with all kinds of different pains. And depending on the partner type that you were going after, those pains varied from, okay, they're outsourcing or they're doing a managed service to, at the time the cloud didn't really exist. So, it was individual value-added resellers or individual consultant agencies that are going in there, or other technology vendors that are working in different areas that are solving different pains that have intel into this account, or have relationships with people that we are trying to target, that really know those people, that have already solved massive problems for are either key champions or economic buyers or decision makers. They've already, have created that rapport and that trust because they've solved these pains for these folks in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think, as people started to see, like, oh shit, like, maybe these guys do have a relationship, or maybe they have that trusted advisor status there, that if we can tap into that, that can help accelerate our sales campaign. It can help de-risk that sales campaign. It can help us get wider in the organization. It can help optimize our message, really help tie into a larger pain of that organization. And so I think it was that, at first that started to make an impact.
So Gardner, you've worked in lots of playbook organizations. Obviously, some CROs really embrace channel and some don't. Why do you think that some do and some don't?
If you look at just the control aspect of it, right? When you start to work with a partner ecosystem and you really start to lean in, you're giving up some level of control. And I think some don't want to relinquish that control, right? They want to go drive their business. They want to own every aspect of it. And that can tend to push partners away. Partners want a collaborative selling environment. They want to, work hand in hand. And I think the ones that really start to see that, it takes time. They haven't probably experienced what a great partner ecosystem can do. And, once they start to see that, and Dolly's a great example of that, and he's experienced the impact that they can have over time. And he's seen, how it can be done right and the value that they can bring. And I think a lot of them just haven't seen a good partner ecosystem and the value that they can bring. And it takes a while to build it. I mean, these things don't happen overnight, and you really need, buy-in from the entire go-to-market organization. You need your CRO buy-in. You need marketing buy-in. You need the sales leaders and sales account managers to buy in. And that takes a while to do it. So you need somebody that's really committed to, like, this is not, there's not instant gratification here. This is going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and it's a build over time. But if you're committed to it, and you've seen the value, then I think that starts to change a CRO and what the potential is there.
Yeah, I think when you start to look at the playbook as we know it, right? What was so pivotal in this playbook is the repeatable, scalable part of it, right? The metrics that are built into it. And historically, channel hasn't necessarily followed some of those metrics and don't necessarily have data, which, for a CRO that is trying to build an organization at scale, when you start to look at channel, and if you don't have that, it's a bit of a guessing game, right? But what you're known for and what you've been able to build is those metrics. Is that scalable metric part of the organization? Can you give us a bit of an insight into what that looks like?
So I went over to at Dynamics, and one of the first meetings, first leadership offsite, was in Rome with both Dolly and Jeremy Duggan. And Jeremy started talking about these account manager sheets and their leading indicators and the data that they were collecting from it. And, at the time I thought, shit, this is just a lot of micromanagement, BS. But as Jeremy started to go through how he leveraged this information to make his team better, to enable them, to help them be as successful as they possibly could be, it was a complete game changer for me. And I left this leadership offsite, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm looking for yet, but I know what we're going to start doing. We're going to start collecting data. We're going to track every meeting that we do. We're going to track every person, every partner, the type of meeting, and we're going to look at the data, and we're going to see what insights that starts to provide us. And so I came back and created a Google sheet and pushed it out to the team, and like, okay, every week everyone's going to enter in their meetings, and we're going to look at this. I don't know what we're looking for yet, but we're going to look for patterns, and we're going to see what's going to make us all better. And so for the first year and a half, it was like just capturing this and looking at, okay, where are the patterns? Like, what is Tom Henderson doing that Arun Dharmalingam is not doing? And what is Whitney Russell doing, or Ty Connor that these other folks aren't doing? And what's working? What does their conversion rates look like versus the conversion rates here? And who are they talking to? And how many times are they meeting with them? And what's their message? And we just started to capture like all of this insight into seeing like, what does good actually look like? And so, it started with just capturing data. I'd heard great stories from Jeremy, the history of time, like here are the leading indicators to be, for success, right? And I'm like, I don't have that story. What are the key metrics? What are the key activities that a partner manager should do that's going to consistently make them the best at what they do, help them make the most money that they possibly can by building a strong partner ecosystem? We just didn't have that. So we started, capturing information and just digging into it. And over time, we started to see these patterns. And we could start to piece together, okay, what does this playbook look like? What does our process look like? And it was really pretty, exciting. Like, and there's a lot of key. I mean, it's still evolving. There's a lot of people that are, building on this, but we started to see some things that laid out our process, which we ended up calling Be Epic, and Tom Henderson is the one that actually named it. We had some pieces. Arun was running this propensity to buy, which is the P in Be Epic, and Ghazal Asif was like, well, we can't call it account mapping. We got to call it interlock sessions because interlocks, are more meaningful, and we got to do it different. And we started to piece together some key components of it, and it just started to take hold. And the key thing with any process was like, okay, we got to all hold ourselves accountable to it. We have to build the assets around it. We have to continue to drive these leading indicators. And it just started to form, and we started to see more success, and we started to create, a true process and a true playbook. And that success was not just coming from like how we were building partners, but it was also, what we're seeing sales organizations and account managers start to lean in. They're like, oh shit, you guys have leading indicators and you have a process, and you're measuring conversion funnel. And it's like, then all of a sudden it started to make sense, and you could explain it to a CRO. You could just explain it to a CFO, and like, here's the value that we're getting, and here's the activity. There's like, oh shit, this is just like a sales playbook. I'm like, yeah, this is, and it became pretty cool. It helped us, from recruiting. It helped us from developing partner managers. Helped us, really make a difference in organizations and build partner ecosystems ultimately from scratch. It was exciting, and it's been building. It's continuing to build, and it's like medic, and then there was another P in there, and two P's, and a couple of C's, and over time people have modified it, and so now you're seeing it, which is really cool to see this thing that we created at App Dynamics start to mature and take on a new life, and more people started executing it across more businesses, and you're seeing some of the folks that were part of this now leading partner organizations across multiple companies, and it's really exciting for me to see.
Thanks to our sponsor, Pipeline Generation AI, the platform that researches your top accounts, creates insights and assets to help you engage more effectively. Elevate your conversations and transform your pipeline with pipeline generation AI today. As you're obviously going through this, you're obviously, you're learning there's lots of different things that this data is enabling you to do. How did the hiring criteria start to adjust as you started to learn more about the data and what was required to be successful?
Yeah, I think what we found is like there's really like you're the profile of a good account manager is not very different than um, a good partner manager. You need to be intelligent. You got to be entrepreneurial. You need to have a sense of urgency. You got to have a lot of drive. I say hustle. Um, you got to be coachable. Like experience can come. Depending on where you are from a stage of a build out, sometimes you need a little bit more experience. If you have a fine tuned machine, you can go earlier in career to build that. But I started to see like, your ideal candidate like really has a lot of the same characteristics as a great AE. The biggest challenge is like, the perception around partner managers. And so can you convince, an A player AE to actually go into the partner organization? And that's probably the biggest challenge. And so, I a lot of times, I'm like, okay, if your ego is too high, you're not gonna make it in the partner organization because you still have to take a backseat in some of the sales campaigns. You're not owning that sales campaign, and so that's it's a harder thing to really embrace. And so you got to be able to kind of check your ego. In many days, that's really really hard. And so I like I like looking for people that have carried a bag, right? They've either worked at a partner as an account manager. That's a great transition in there that wants to make the move into a vendor. They get the partner ecosystem, but definitely have those key characteristics that align very well to what a good AE would be.
Why would an AE choose? So they've got two options, right? They've got an option to go direct. They've got an option to go into partner. Why should they consider going into the partner?
Well, I kind of look at it and like from my perspective, this is still a very immature part of a go-to-market strategy, and so there are a lot of good sales reps out there. The opportunity for career advancement, the opportunity to make money, the opportunity to make a difference in an organization, you can be a big fish in a small pond when you go into the partner business, and you can make a meaningful difference to organizations. And so the opportunity to actually build something and have like this career advancement, probably at an accelerated pace, over being an AE where there's so many roles there that there's a lot of opportunity to build something and become a top player in an organization at a very rapid pace.
What about the skills that are required? So I know you kind of spoke a little bit about the attributes, but champion building is a very important part of direct selling, but it's also really, really important in channel. So just tell us a little bit about that.
Champion building is probably the most important thing, I would say, on partners, definitely on the partner side, and it goes beyond just building champions at a partner, right? You have to build champions internally as well. You got to build champions with the account managers. You got to build champions with the sales leaders. You got to build champions with your services team, and you got to build champions with marketing. You really have to build champions across the board. And it becomes like, if you're not a good champion builder, or you get laser focused on just building champions in partners, you're not going to maximize. You're not going to maximize the partner potential, especially in playbook companies, right? That have a primarily direct, mindset. Like, you have to build those internal champions and build them along the way. Tom is phenomenal at that. And, when he was at App Dynamics, like, he started by really probably owning the building champions across the sales organization. And when he got those champions built, it made it much easier to build his partner champions. And when you built your partner champions, then all of a sudden your business, and you have your internal champions, your business really starts to take off. And you get the partners leaning in, you get your sales organization leaning in, and then that's when the value really starts to be created from a partner.
Good enterprise sellers, or direct sellers, are very strong at discovery, finding pains, but also that champion building, which again, now your talk track aligns so well to that, which is why, and you can start to see the similarities of the playbook itself. I'd be interested to know what point of your career did you think, do you know what, I've worked this out, this playbook is, you mentioned that it's still evolving today, but where did it really come together? And at what point in your career did you think, do you know what, I've cracked the code here, or at least, I've taken a big chunk out of that code?
It was probably about a year after the acquisition that I really started to see it click. And it's like, we started messaging it, we started measuring the team, we started building assets from it, and it just organically, just the internal alignment from it was like, oh shit, okay, we have something here. I started seeing marketing starting to align. All right, we're going to go target this partner. Are we building belief? Are we trying to drive a propensity to buy? Are we doing, are we trying to drive, world-class interlock sessions? And I started seeing our marketing people start to lean around it. And then our operations team started to build out, how does this align to the sales playbook? And where do the sales team actually start to get involved? And where do they align on this process? And so that to me was like, oh, okay, we have something here that is not just about like, how do we as a partner organization execute, but how do we communicate back to the business, and how are they helping to now align? It's starting to make sense to everybody. And it was probably that a year and a half after the acquisition that I really started to see it click.
Yeah.
And then it was, it's like, okay, this is starting to take off, and we're starting to see it from a partner perspective and how we engage. Like, okay, we have a process. Like, this is how we go to market. We do this because we want to have the shortest path to whatever's in it to you, whether it be margin or revenue or access to new business units. And here's the process that we execute so that we can accelerate your time to value. And, this is a proven path, and we're going to measure it, and we hold our team accountable to it. But our whole mission is to help you make you as successful as possible in the shortest amount of time. And so you could start to see it resonate with partners and internally, and it started to make sense. And I mean, it's so simple. Like, we do it on the sales side every day, right? And it's like, it was a piece in my mind that was missing from building a partner ecosystem.
With regards to enablement, obviously enablement must fall quite heavily into this. You spoke about ops, you spoke about other departments, but where does enablement fit into this playbook of yours, Gardner?
Yeah, enablement is it's a critical component, right? And it's really hard to do well. So I look at enablement there, and there's multiple stages, right? As you're trying to build from the beginning, it's more opportunity identification enablement. And then as you move into, a sales execution, a sales cycle, you have pre-sales enablement that you have to do, demo and differentiators and competitive comp intel. And then as you move into like, okay, we built a big enough pipeline and there's enough business for a partner, you're moving into the services enablement and support side of it. And so there's a lot of pieces to it. And so it just depends on where you are from a maturity of your partner ecosystem of where you're focused on. Now it's in the beginning, it's more around enablement to build belief, right? So, like, why should they focus on doing anything with whatever vendor you're at? So, how are you different? What's the opportunity? What's the strategic advantage or the drag business that they can pull around with? And how do you identify, a potential opportunity? And that's probably the easiest enablement to do. As you start to move into an actual sales campaign execution on the technical enablement side, starts to become harder. And as you get into the post sales, it becomes even harder. And a lot of that is because, depending on where you are and the size of the organization, a lot of your internal enablement components or programs are not really geared towards what a partner cares about or what they need to be successful. And so it becomes a little bit more complex, but it's absolute critical component if you want to build this out. And over my time and being there, and in my early days, I'm like, we'll just focus on this very beginning, and then you realize like, oh shit, like I really gotta beef up the second and third acts of enablement from a partner perspective, and sometimes you got to accelerate that even faster. But a lot of those assets tend to be missing within an organization. And so you have to build out a partner enablement team to really start to fill in some of those gaps. And it can be a challenge. It's not an easy process because you really need support from the entire organization. And but if you can build in from a company mindset, right? Like a company mindset when they're building out enablement content, don't just think about how you're going to enable the sales rep or the SC. Think about, all right, how do I reuse these assets? Like, how do I make these assets in a way that will support not only my internal sales team, but my partner sales organization or my pre-sales and post-sales? How do I build the content in a way that is reusable as possible, as opposed to like, okay, now I got to go modify all these. And there's, simple things that you can do, in the early days to make that process easier. But a lot of times it's you got to do a lot of modification in order to be able to attack that.